Jay Deas, I hope you're doing well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Hey, how's it going? You guys doing all right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt, man. We're having a lot of fun and certainly celebrating Saturday night here in Tuscaloosa, looking at Deontay getting another win, and I know it was one that was costly, but just overall, your evaluation of the fight.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I don't know that there's a tougher, human being mentally or physically than Deontay. What he did was, and after the fact, when you figure out that he had a pretty severe injury to his bicep and also to his hand, for him to do what he did was remarkable. To continue to stay in the fight, stay focused, to continue to execute the game plan, to change things on the fly as needed, so that he could, he could make best use of what talent and things that he could work with. It was an amazing thing, and I'm very, very proud of it.
All right, now this is really, I hope this is not an inappropriate question, but when you're in the ring like that, and I know you don't want to say anything, how do you communicate when you're talking about technique? And did you know the hand was broken? I mean, some of us on Press Row noticed that he wasn't throwing the right hand. I mean, did you know that it was injured? And so how do you handle that technique if you don't want to say anything because you don't want your opponent to hear you?
Well, it's they're all the way across the ring, so for the most part, you can say what you want. I mean, you may rarely get somebody who's watching, some sort of a broadcast ringside that may shout something especially with today's technology, may shout something. But for the most part, you're so focused in your own little island that you work within that. So I knew that Deontay sat down. I think it was after the fourth round and said something was wrong with his arm, and I thought that was the reason that he wasn't able to throw the right hand. After he knocked Arreola down, you'll see him walk to the corner, the neutral corner, and you'll see him looking at his arm. And in fact, it was two injuries. I didn't know till after the fight that there was a hand injury because he kept using the right hand, strategically, and it really never came up till after the fight. We knew there was an arm injury, but not a hand injury necessarily. So in the corner, he told us, we knew something was up. But in boxing, when you have an injury, the worst thing you can do is let your opponent know it, because it doesn't do you any good for him to know it. In fact, it actually picks up his confidence. So when you have an injury like a hand or whatever, you may still throw that punch or that hand or that, those punches, but you may miss on purpose, or you may not put the extra oomph on the end of the punch, the things that may re-injure it or injure it worse than it already is. So all in all, he just did a phenomenal job with it.
We're talking to Jay Deas right now. He is the manager trainer of Deontay Wilder. He's also the owner of Sky Boxing here in our area. We appreciate all those folks outside on the internet. Internet numbers just went up because they want to hear about Deontay Wilder. And I'm just going to ask you a very generic question. You tell us what you can tell us. What is the latest health update on Deontay Wilder?
He's got a pretty severe, pretty bad injury to his hand. We know it's broken. We are looking at exactly how extensive the damage is. He's also got a problem with his bicep, the tendon there, and that will likely also require surgery. So at this point, we're looking at all our options and trying to decide when we're going to do it. He has not had surgery yet. We wanted to get all our information first. When we're going to do it, who's going to do it, where we're going to do it, and what the prognosis is. And we're going through all that right now. We have a great medical staff on board that's helping us out. Dr. Robinson, Dr. Williams, and we're being led in the right direction on all fronts. But basically, it's just going to be a thing where it's going to take some time. It's just one of those things where we may be looking at end of the year or even early next year before we're able to get back in the ring.
When you look at this injury with a hand injury, this is his second broken hand. At what point do you become a little bit concerned that, not that it's career ending, but this will affect his career?
Well, he's I've said many times he really hits too hard to be a human being, but especially to be one with genetics of a basketball player. A lot of these heavyweights at the top level are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 240, 260, 280, and they have that big bone structure, big hands, big forearm bones. And Deontay is not that way. He's very athletic, very fast fast switch muscle oriented, and his bones are that of more, like I said, like a basketball player, which are like a more narrow, longer, streamlined type thing. So and when you hit as hard as he does, those things, something's got to give, and those bones are just have not been able to hold up the way we would have wanted them to. I think we're probably going to have to go to a more protective glove when we fight. There's really 3 levels of protection when you fight. One glove is called a puncher's glove, which is what all the guys have that want to get the most out of their play. It has the least amount of padding. The mid-level glove that offers a good good punching power, but also some good hand protection. And then you've got one that's almost entirely hand protection, which means that your punch is not felt nearly as much, but your hand is extremely well protected. So that's kind of and all those gloves weigh the same thing. So it's really just a matter of where the padding is distributed. So we're probably going to have to go. Deontay's always liked the puncher's glove, as you might imagine, but we're probably going to have to go to the second or the third option on gloves and get him more hand protection.
Can you talk about, and this is the part that obviously we talked about, there was no nonverbals there. Very few people picked up that I was sitting next to a boxing analyst, and I think I looked at him in the 4th and 5th, and I said, something's wrong with the right hand. He's not throwing it, but nonverbals were not there. As you said, you don't want to ever show your opponent that. But can you talk about how he countered that and used his left? And maybe if we went back a year and a half ago, could he have been able to fight a quality opponent like Chris Arreola with his left, and how much that has improved, whether we're talking about the jab or the hook? Just impressive from the technique standpoint to rely only on that left hand. I know he threw the right a couple of times, but really just relying on that left hand to fight for 4 rounds against a major heavyweight fighter.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. We've always said that we don't want Deontay to be the guy with the huge punch that's deficient in every other area. We have really worked hard to develop all facets of his game. The inside game that he showed against Duhaupas, the jab and the hook, which he showed against Tavern, and here again in this fight. It's really a testament to how hard Deontay's worked on these areas, because it's easy to work on what you're good at and what you do naturally, but he's always wanting to learn, and he's really in tune with how to make things better. The check hook that you saw this fight that gave him the distance he needed to get where he needed to get. The jab was remarkable. And, and we practice these things just as a football team practices an onside kick for those, times in a game where they may be behind, or, the game may be, late in the game type of a situation. In boxing, in particular us, we practice scenarios where he spars with his one eye closed or the other eye closed, as if it's been cut or swollen, like it was against Duhaupas. We also practice as if one hand or the other has been broken, like it was against Tavern and again against Arreola. So, these things we knew mentally would be no problem. Deontay would have no problem handling the mental aspect of being, i.e. a one-arm fighter, because we'd done it in the gym so much. But physically, it was the work he put in to developing that left hand, his incredible right hand, that really made the difference.
Does the critics, does that motivate you when you hear the naysayers? Because I don't know if he's ever going to shut them up. I don't know what he needs to do. He fought 4 rounds with one hand against Chris Arreola. Does that get to you? Do you use it as motivation?
I don't really even know. I don't really. I used to try to argue, and when I saw that, logic and reason really have no place on the internet, I saw that people would trash LeBron James and Coach Saban, and once I saw that kind of stuff a few years ago, it was it kind of made sense to me. I'm like, well, look, if you're going to trash these kind of guys, then there's just going to be trash talkers everywhere. So I don't even listen to it or look for it or see it on the internet. There's a lot of boxing sites on the internet I really don't even visit anymore. It just doesn't interest me. It's not what we're doing. You're never gonna have make those people happy or please those people or those kind of things. And so I'm not in that world really. It doesn't affect me or what I do or what we do as a team. I can't really speak for Deontay. I don't know. Deontay said he gives haters a full-time job, but I don't know. From my perspective, it's not something I waste time on. I'd rather spend time watching film of opponents or charting out the proper course for what we're trying to do.
Jay, can you talk about? I think there's the fight that's coming up, and I'm not sure if that's been anything has been changed about that. But middle of August, I think we're going to be having some local boxing back here in Tuscaloosa.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be Friday, August the 12th, and it's going to be at the Bobby Miller Center, which is down Highway 69 South, right there, kind of near, I guess, what you'd say near Hillcrest. And the great thing about this is, I talked to Deontay about it. He was 1,000% on board and still is. I talked to him today about it, and basically this is Deontay's way of giving back to the younger fighters because there was a boxing program in place when Deontay came up. That allowed him to fight, and it gave him opportunities that he may not have had otherwise. And he realizes that, and he wants to help the young guys out. So he's excited to be part of the event. He's going to be there as the host. He's going to be, I was going to say shaking hands, but he won't be shaking hands, but he will be taking pictures, and the hand will very likely be in a cast. But he'll be taking pictures and everything, and this is for an opportunity for the young guys that are turning pro, guys like Dion Nicholson, Thomas Knox. We're also working still, of course, with Keandre Leatherwood, who will be the main event. Robert Alfonso, the Cuban Olympian from 2008, who we're working with now. All these guys are going to be showcased. These are guys that are going to be fighting. It's a professional boxing show, and it's going to be at the Bobby Miller Center on August 12th. And we're excited. Tickets are extremely cheap, especially as compared to a heavyweight title fight. These are young fighters, and the ticket prices reflect that. Tickets are $25 for the general admission, and the $60 ticket gets you on the front row, just a very few feet from the ring. So you really can't beat the price either. Plus, Deontay's there. You get to meet the champ. It's a really great thing.
Jay, final question. You work with a left and the right, the combinations, and all those things in boxing. Where did he get those hip moves? I mean, did you teach him that?
I can assure you that I did not teach him that. I will tell you, you can always tell when he's in the gym and a fight's getting close. He gets very excited, very animated. He's joking, he's laughing. He's a happy guy because he loves to fight. He loves his job, and he will start dancing in the ring as we, typically we play old school music. Deontay prefers to work out to Sly Stone, James Brown, George Clinton, Gap Band, Daz Band, these type of things. Kool and the Gang, which is great for me because that's my generation. So it makes me happy as well. So a lot of times when the music's on, he'll break into dance moves, and he's actually got quite a few really good moves. And so I guess in the fight he just felt it. He felt in control. He was enjoying himself, and he decided to put on a show for the crowd. A lot of people say, did you tell him not to ever do that again or whatever? And I said, no. I said that to me was a great sign. It showed me that he was in control. He was happy. He's motivated and full of energy, and he was protecting himself. While and he knew what he was setting Arreola up for. So I had no problem with it at all. I found it quite enjoyable.